You know the worst part about getting a new game? It's finishing it. I mean, honestly, you get the game, you play through everything, you devour every piece of content it has, and then that's it, you're done. You're left wanting more. And it has been a long time, not a long time, but it's been about a year since a game has really captivated me like this game has. But without further ado, let's jump into it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Rift Apart is the latest installment of the Ratchet and Clank franchise and the flagship title for the PS5. That being said, if you don't have a PS5, you'll have to wait as this is an exclusive. However, if you're like me and lucky enough to have a new console, go buy this game. Not only is it an amazing Ratchet and Clank game, it's a great game just by itself. Ratchet and Clank have a long history with PlayStation going all the way back to the PS2. These games have had solid installments again and again. That being said, the last two entries left fans wanting just a little bit more. That's not to say that Into the Nexus and the 2016 reimagining were bad, far from it. They just left fans yearning for a more robust entry like A Crack in Time. Well, Insomniac did not disappoint, so let's jump into the narrative. As always, I'm going to try and steer away from spoilers, especially since this is a brand new game, and it is a story that longtime fans need to experience for themselves. The game opens up right away after selecting your difficulty. This is one of the benefits of the PS5's SSD. There's no load times. You just go, 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 go. We see a dark and gloomy city as robots mill about. The camera comes on to this alien running from what appears to be gigantic robot security. The sentries mention something about an emperor. Next, we see what appears to be a robot climb out of a sewer and steal an infobot from this supposed emperor's assistant. Cut back to the original alien being cornered, and our sewer friend saves the day. They pull off their helmet, revealing themselves to the alien as newcomer Rivet, who is, yes, in fact, another Lombax. Once the cutscene ends, we are instantly tuned into Ratchet and Clank in Megalopolis at some kind of parade. It's a celebration of heroes, and of course our dynamic duos are the stars. We see familiar faces like Captain Quark, Skid McMarx, Rusty Pete, all three being our MCs for the show. The parade starts off by describing the meeting of our heroes, recounting Veldin, the Blarg invasion of Kerwan, and even referencing the Great Clock. Now, this whole segment is kind of a throwback to the entire franchise, and it touches and hints on little parts of past games. Hence why you see Rusty Pete and Skid McMarx, and there's the platform with the Great Clock, but there's a line from Clank that references two old enemy factions, and it just made me giddy. He references the Blarg, and he references the Kragmites, and as someone who's a fan of Tools of Destruction, having that reference be brought up again just made me so happy. But all is not quiet as the newly branded Goons for Less invade, claiming there's a bounty on Ratchet's head. Yes, I say newly branded because it is confirmed in-game in the glossary that Goons for Less are the OG Thugs for Less from Going Commando that have just gone with a new branding. Ratchet and Clank fight through the onslaught of goons, and Clank presents a newly fixed Dimensionator to Ratchet, wanting to help Ratchet find the other Lombaxes. However, Dr. Nefarious appears out of nowhere and steals it from our heroes and starts opening dimensional rifts. We chase Nefarious down, but not before damaging the device and nabbing a piece of the phase quartz. After confronting Nefarious, the device goes haywire, and our heroes are sucked into different dimensions. Clank makes an attempt to fix the Dimensionator, but not before it scatters the duo and the Doctor. Clank awakens to find himself damaged and face to face with Rivet. Nefarious wakes up to find himself in a place where he's crowned emperor. And finally, Ratchet awakens in a dark city and sets out to find Clank, defeat Nefarious, and get back home.
I know that was a lot, but the setup is phenomenal, and it paces the story perfectly for the rest of our adventure. Now, there are a bunch of Easter eggs and references to past installments, like I mentioned earlier, and this is great because when the game was announced, fans like me were concerned and confused on where this kind of sat in the Ratchet and Clank timeline. Was this a follow-up to the Future Saga, or was this a sequel to the 2016 reimagining? Thankfully, Insomniac put our worries to rest short after the announcement by saying not only was Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart a standalone title that new fans and old fans alike could enjoy, but it would also take place after Into the Nexus. So while you didn't need to play the future games and the past games in the franchise to understand what was going on, longtime fans would feel right at home. Now that the stage is set for our adventure, let's talk about how the game handles and what we'll be doing as we hop through planets and dimensions.
If you're a fan of the franchise, you'll feel right at home. Although there are a few mobility changes, the formula is pretty much untouched from previous games. For starters, Rift Apart takes a page out of Crack in Time's book and separates Ratchet and Clank for a good portion of the game. Now, when I saw this, I was concerned because I didn't want to retread old gameplay. However, I was happily proven wrong, as Insomniac really balances the gameplay and level design this time around. For starters, you play as Ratchet and Rivet respectively. Each character will have certain planets that only they will visit, so you never retread planets with the opposite character. For example, Rivet visits Sargasso, but Ratchet doesn't. This makes sure that each character has unique set pieces and unique narrative interactions. Besides that, their movesets are the same. Ratchet and Rivet have a jump, a sprint button. Yeah, a sprint button in a Ratchet and Clank game. I know, it's pretty weird. It looks a little funky. You know, it's not bad. I really didn't use it all that much. You don't really have to. His running speed is kind of the same as it always has been. But, you know, it's there if you want to. There's a new wall running mechanic. They have the Omni Glove, which lets them pull themselves towards rifts. Ratchet has his dad's hover boots from A Crack in Time, and they both have a tether shot, and they both have grind boots, amongst other things. One big change is to the weapons. Instead of having separate arsenals, they share weapons, gadgets, and even armor.
So not long after we take control of Rivet, we go to Miss Zircon and we realize that our weapons are shared between both characters. And they give a little explanation in-game on how this works. They don't explain it to the T, but they kind of hint that, oh yeah, it's kind of like this big resistance group, so everyone kind of has access to the same gear. So I think that's really neat, because otherwise it would just leave us scratching our heads going, wait, why does Rivet have Ratchet's gear, and vice versa?
Weapons level up like they have since going Commando. Every weapon has 5 levels that can be earned. Most guns take advantage of the haptic feedback of the DualSense 5, where if you pull the fire button halfway down, the weapon will do one action, and if you pull it all the way down, it will perform something different. So for an example, if you have the Shatter Bomb glove on, let's say, pulling the fire trigger halfway down will show you the trajectory path of throwing the bomb, where if you pull the trigger all the way down, Ratchet will just toss the bomb out, whether or not you're aiming with L2, or whether or not you've seen the trajectory by only holding R2 halfway down. On top of that, the Raritanium upgrading system from Tools of Destruction has returned again with some minor adjustments. Also, your weaponry is a mix between new and a few old weapons from past games that are fan favorites that I'm sure are going to make longtime fans smile like I smiled. Armor has seen some changes as well. Instead of buying full sets from a vendor, you find pieces out in the world in a similar manner to Size Matters. You get them from new platforming puzzles set in pocket dimensions, doing little side quests, or winning them from the battle arena. Speaking of the battle arena, it's back and you play through it exclusively as Rivet. While I'm happy it's back as it's been a staple in the franchise, I wish there were more than just 3 cups. On top of that, armor doesn't give you inherent damage reduction like it did in the past. Instead, once you have an entire armor set, so we'll take for example the Carbonox armor, which not only do you get from a pre-order bonus, which The pre-order bonus does not have any bonus perks tied to it, but you get an upgraded version later on in the game. If you have the Carbonox set, the fully upgraded one, if you pre-ordered the game like I did, and you have every piece equipped, you'll get a small perk. These include more bolts gained, a small XP buff, more wrench damage. It all depends on which set you have equipped. You can also color each and every armor piece with a color swatch that they have, which is very similar to the Constructo guns from A Crack in Time. Also, your helmet is automatically removed in cutscenes, as all cutscenes happen in real time, which is a huge plus. If you remember the older games, when you had a full set of the full body armor, like the Carbonox armor, the Inferno armor, your face was covered the entire time.
If you're an old-time fan of the Ratchet and Clank series, you'll know that you won't just be playing as Ratchet and Rivet. You'll also be playing as your fun little backpack friend, Clank.
Clank also has new dimensional puzzles, which are similar to his Crack in Time puzzles and are honestly the best in the series, in my opinion. They also have different narrative beats, which are really cool. On top of that, Ratchet has a gadget which lets you do a few hacking mini games, and these are set up like this shooter segment, and they're really cool and they have their own tiny narrative beats, but there's not too many of them, which I think if they fleshed it out a little bit more, it would have been something that would have been really nice. On top of all of this, which is mostly main story content, there is a ton of collectibles, including gold bolts, which unlock cheat codes, photo mode stuff, different cosmetic options for your ship. There's a photo mode, which, you know, we were all expecting after Spider-Man. There are these Care Bear things hidden in each planet, and I think they're an homage to someone at Insomniac. I'm not entirely sure. I would have to go back and look that up. There's also side quests, spy bots, Longback's orbs, pocket dimensions, all the armor sets, and of course, plans for the ultimate gun, the Rhino 8. The only thing is that I wish there was more side stuff, like racing or ship battles, like we had in the older games. It's not that the game suffers without them, but I feel like it would have added just a little bit extra to the game and would have just rounded everything out a little bit more.
So there's so much to do in this game, and none of it feels like padding, or like it's pointless, or like it's there just to bloat the game. Everything feels like it has a place, and that makes everything worth doing. It makes you want to go out and find that gold bolt, or go and find this spy bot over here. And I honestly love that. But one of the biggest selling points for this game is its visuals. And on a series of next-gen consoles, we can't forget about the visuals.
At a base level, this is the best looking game I've played, period. Ratchet and Clank games have always been touted as the games that, quote, feel like you're playing a Pixar movie. With the graphical leaps the PS5 has made, it 100% feels like that now. I mean, in the settings menu, you have the option to change the graphical settings from Fidelity, which is the default, that has all the bells and whistles, including ray tracing, all the new hot and fresh PS5 stuff. It causes the game to run at 30 FPS. Then there's the performance mode, which is just a 60 FPS version of the game with all the extra fidelity stuff toned down. And then there's a performance RTX setting, which is a 60 FPS mode with ray tracing turned on. No matter which one of these settings you choose, the game is a marvel to look at. Everything is crisp and clean and super buttery smooth. I'm talking butter sliding across a hot pan when you're frying eggs in the morning smooth. I didn't have any problems during my 2 playthroughs. There was no slowdown, no stuttering, no clipping, no bugs whatsoever. You can tell that Insomniac really took the time and effort to make sure that this game was as polished as can be. The sound design is also great. Certain sounds like weapon effects and bolt collecting play through your controller speaker. Everything sounds crunchy or heavy or whatever is called for. It's there. The composer this time around was Mark Mothersbaugh, who you may know from Devo, but he also composed Thor Ragnarok, the Rugrats. He'll be composing Thor Love and Thunder, amongst a bunch of other things. He absolutely annihilated the soundtrack. blending a mix of big orchestral pieces like we saw in A Crack in Time, and some of that OG PS2 flair. Everything visually and sound-wise comes together in the perfect package. Honestly, Rift Apart has climbed its way to the top of my favorite Ratchet games of all time. It's a literal celebration and culmination of everything the series has done up to this point. It pulls aspects from every part of the franchise and iterates on them, bringing them all together in one complete package. That's the best part of it all. It respects newcomers and longtime fans alike. It is a standalone game, but it continues the last arc and possibly even sets up the future for the franchise. There's winks and hints and nods and Easter eggs scattered all throughout the game if you're aware enough and your ears are sharp enough. Or, if you just have subtitles on. In a time where we get unfinished games and DLC-riddled live service games, having a complete game like this from start to finish is a breath of fresh air. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is a game I was incredibly excited for, and I was not disappointed. The game is great. I wish the side content was a little more fleshed out with a few extra macro games, as they used to call them, but that didn't stop me from getting a full 100% completion on my first run. If you own a PS5, you need to pick this game up and give it a shot. It is completely worth your time.
Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is one of those games that not only is complete in a day and age where every game feels like it's piecemealed to you, it's made with genuine care. Insomniac has never forgotten about the Ratchet and Clank franchise. Even when we think they might be forgetting a little bit, they always come back and deliver just another absolute banger of a game, and Rift Apart is no exception. The love letters, the attention to detail, the fidelity, it all feels complete. You can see where Insomniac has learned things from making the Spider-Man games and have implemented into Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, like the wall running, for example. All in all, it's a perfect game, a near perfect game, I actually would say. Because like I mentioned, I wish there was just a little bit more to do, but none of it is bad. All of it is great. What we got is fun, and it's worth every second of your time. So that answers the question, is it worth playing? Yes, not only is it worth playing, it's worth 100%ing. It's worth the platinum. If I was to give it a rating, it'd be a platinum rating. It's worth it. I had so much fun with it, and I hope you have fun with it too. So if you play it, let me know down in the comments what your thoughts on Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart are. And if you did like the video, hit the like button, click the subscribe, the bell, all that fun stuff. And if you want to talk to me about it live, I do stream here every Thursday night at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. So pop in, we'll have a discussion. Right now we're playing some Destiny. But with all that being said, there's a lot more games I gotta play, which means there's a lot more videos that are gonna be happening. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. And until next time, always remember to keep gaming.